Hey, welcome to another maths method video. In this one we are going to look at division again, but in this case we're going to look at the method long division, the dreaded long division, which can be a little bit scary at times, but actually what you need to bear in mind with this method is that the extra steps that we do in it are there to help us, not to hinder us. So let's have a look at a calculation. Here we have 432 divided by 15. Now, the other method that we sometimes use for division is the short method. The reason we would choose maybe to use this long method is if the divisor is a two-digit number and a fairly large two-digit number. And you'll see why we do that in a moment, but first of all I'm just going to make sure I know where all the digits are in these numbers and in which columns they are in. So let's take 432. So the 2 is in the units, 3 is in the tens, we have 3 tens, and the 4 is in the hundreds, we have 4 hundreds. And the divisor here, the 5 is in the units, or the ones, as we should probably start calling them, and the 1 is in the tens here, so that's 110. So to lay out this method, we lay it out very similarly to the short method. In fact, it's almost identical. So we need to create ourselves a fallen down bus stop, like this. We put the dividend, which is this number, inside the fallen down bus stop. And we place the divisor, which is the number we're dividing by, just out here, just to remind us that we are dividing by 15. I'm just going to move this down so it's a fair distance from the calculation. So let's take a look at how we do this method then. It's almost the same as our short method. We're going to ask for each column how many 15s will fit into each column, or how many groups of 1500 can we make, how many groups of 1510s, and how many groups of 15 units. It's always very useful for this method to start off by just noting down, maybe at the side of your page, parts of the 15 times table. Now this is actually probably the most tricky part of this calculation. This method is that you've actually got to kind of work out what the times table is of the number you're dividing by. So I'm just going to write down. Okay, we've swapped to calligraphic pen. Fantastic. So 15, 2 15s are 30, 3 15s are 45, 4 15s are 60, 5 15s are 75, of course they are, because that's half of 150, 6 15s are 90, and that's probably as far as I need to go for the time being. You don't need to do the whole times table, just do the first 5 or something, and then you might need to add to it later. So let's start off with the first step, just like we do with the short method. We're going to ask how many groups of 1500s can I meet? So how many times does 15 go into 4? In this case it doesn't. Now normally with the short method we would move those 4 hundreds into the tens column. We're actually just going to leave them where they are there, but we still need to note down how many groups of 15 we can make in the hundreds, and it's none, so we need to put a 0 above the hundreds column. Then we're going to ask how many groups of 15 can we make in 43 tens. So instead of moving the 4 we're just going to expand across. So we're going to ask how many groups of 15 can I make in 43. And I can look down here, I can see that 2 15s would be 30, 3 15s would be 45, so it wouldn't be 3 15s, it would be 2 15s, which are 30. So like the short method, I would just note that above. Now this is where we run into the difference. Okay, so in this method, we would then write down what those 2 15s are underneath, which is 30. Now the reason we're doing this is because this step helps us work out or calculate what is left over, what is the remainder, what's going to move on to the next column. And that's the reason we do this with the long method, and the difference between it is that when we get very large numbers for the divisor, it's sometimes more difficult to calculate what the remainder would be at each step, and that's why we have this extra step. It's not necessarily there just to make it look fancy or more complicated. It's there to help us just work out what the remainder would be, and we do this by then subtracting the 2 15s away from the 43 tens we had there. So remember, that's actually 30 tens. So we do 3 take away 0, which is 3. 4 take away 3, which is 1. Okay, now that tells us we have got 13 tens remaining. Now in the short method, we would just move that 13 into the units column, which would then become 130 units. In this method, we do very similar, but it's not physically the remainder that moves over, it's actually the next number that moves, because we currently have a remaining 13 tens, which is 130 units, but we also have these 2 units here. So these 2 units will move down to make our total number of units we have in that column, which is 132 units, and that'd be the same as if we just place those 13 tens there. And now we ask the same question, but instead of asking how many 15 groups can we make of 2, we're asking how many 15s go into 132 units. And once again, we can go back to our little times table here, and as you can see, I don't get anywhere close to 130, so I'm going to need to keep going. So if I add another 15 to that, we get 105, then 120, and 135. So I can see how many 15s go into 132. Well, 4 15s, 5 15s, 6 15s, 7 15s, 8 15s, 9 15s. So I can see that 8 15s are 120, but 9 15s are 135, so I can't go that high. So I'm going to have to go with 8 15s. So 8 15s go into 132. So 15 goes into 132 8 times. Now I need to work out what the remainder would be. So I know, so the 8 15s is 120, so I place it underneath to help me calculate what the remainder is going to be. And once again, I'm just going to subtract the remainder away from what's already there. So 2 take away 0 is 2, 3 take away 2 is 1, and 1 take away 1 is 0. Now at this stage, we can go in 2 different ways, well 3 different ways actually. We could leave that as our answer. We could say 432 is 432 divided by 15 is 28 with a remainder of 12. So we could put it as 28 with a remainder of 12. Or if we wanted to express that remainder, what we've got here is we've got 12 units out of a group of 15. So we could write it as, instead of remainder 12, 12 15ths. Or we could keep going into decimal numbers here. And how we do that is the same as the way we do it for the short method. We can extend this line, and we've just got to remember that there is a decimal point here. And actually, the number in the tenths column, at the moment we've got nothing there, so actually there would be a 0 in there. So just like we did with this step here, we're going to move that 0, we're going to add, so to speak, that 0. So we're not actually adding it, because 12 plus 0 would be 12 still. But what we're saying there is we're moving those 12 units into the tenths column, which is giving us 120 tenths. Then we're going to ask again, how many 15s go into 120, or how many groups of 15 can we make out of 120? And if we have a look down here, we have 15, we can see actually that's spot on. 8 15s are 120. So I can say 15 goes into 120 8 times. Now I must remember again my decimal point there. Now, to work out if there's any remainder there, I follow the same steps that I did before. I'm going to write how much 8/15 is and place that underneath. You can probably already see we're not going to have any remainder because 0 take away 0 is 0, 2 take away 2 is 0, and 1 take away 1 is 0. So we've got nothing left over. We've got no remainder. So we could express it as the total up here, 28.8. Okay, and that is the much dreaded long division method. A couple of things to bear in mind. The reason that this method is used is to help us essentially deal with bigger divisors, which are these ones here, the number we're dividing by, and especially to help us to work out what the remainder would be at each stage. That's really why this sort of funky looking method is there, is to help us work out what the remainder would be at each stage. If we could do that mentally, we'd probably just use the short method, but this helps us work out the remainder. And that is it's the sort of standard long division method. There are other long division methods which we may look at in the next video. Okay, thanks for watching. Have fun with your methods, and until next time, have fun, basically.